Chinese President Xi Jinping will have a lot to smile about when he meets his counterpart Donald Trump in Beijing this week. By any reasonable measure, it's been a good year for China. From the South China Sea to climate change to jockeying over global leadership, the dominoes have fallen in Beijing's favor again and again. Even the death of a Nobel Peace Prize winning activist while in Chinese police custody, an event that under normal circumstances would have provoked lasting international condemnation, failed to tarnish the country's leadership in any tangible way. China has managed, partly through its own actions and partly through the influence of Trump, to essentially put itself in a position where it has a lot more choices and a lot more opportunities, Professor Ronald Mitter, the director of the University China Center at Oxford University told CNN. While the United States has seen its political system lurch from crisis to crisis throughout 2017, Chinese President Xi seamlessly tightened his hold on power during the Communist Party Congress in October. The only cloud in a blue Chinese sky has been the lengthy standoff between North Korea and the United States, which has left a frustrated China stuck between its former ally and its current rival. While Mitter said some of the credit belongs to the Communist Party leadership, other experts said the arrival of Trump has been the primary catalyst. The more Trump made himself a laughingstock, the better China appeared by comparison, said Su Genqi, a University of Hong Kong professor and author of Chinese and Americans: A Shared History, told CNN. In any other country, the death of a Nobel Prize winner would be a time of national mourning amid a general celebration of their achievements. China's only Peace Prize laureate Liu Xiaobo died under police guard in a northeastern Chinese hospital in July. A pro-democracy advocate who took part in the 1989 Tiananmen Square demonstrations, Liu had been in jail since 2009 for calling for political reform and human rights in China. But despite the grim circumstances surrounding the end of his life and China's refusal to let him seek medical help overseas, Liu's death passed without comment in his home country and a muted reaction worldwide, most notably from within the White House. Jeffrey Wasserstrom, professor of history at University of California, Irvine, said the chaos inside the Trump administration had accidentally drawn the world's attention from Liu's death. He was the first Nobel Peace Prize winner since Nazi times to die in prison, Wasserstrom told CNN. That would have been, and should have been, a much bigger story than it was. In June, a visit by President Xi to Hong Kong, celebrating the 20th anniversary of the city's return to Chinese rule, went off without a hitch. Only small protests were held despite a tightening crackdown on the population's civil liberties and the appointment by Beijing of an unpopular candidate as Hong Kong's chief executive. Less than 2 months later, in August, pro-democracy leaders were jailed with little protest. Human rights were long viewed as a blight on China's international reputation, said University of Hong Kong's Zhu. But now, thanks to Trump undermining America's soft power, China's credibility and image seems to have gained. When Xi stepped up to the podium at Davos in January and delivered a robust defense of free trade to the globe's financial elite, the Western world was stunned. The defender of the global economy, the United States, was handing over power to a fierce protectionist in Donald Trump. Meanwhile, a supposedly communist leader was appearing to be its strongest supporter. Any objective observer would know the US has far more open markets than China, but it was a way Xi could balance himself against the unexpected rhetoric of Trump and take advantage, Mitter said. In June, China again stepped into a vacuum left by Trump. Days after the US leader announced he was pulling out of the Paris Agreement on global warming, Xi joined the European Union to declare China was all in. There's been a series of US-owned goals, Wasserstrom said. Leaving the Paris Agreement made Xi Jinping look very good in comparison. Closer to home, the launch of their massive One Belt One Road global infrastructure program in Beijing was considered a success, attended by a who's who of regional leaders keen to share in China's generosity. Earlier in the year, Beijing began an unofficial boycott of South Korean companies and performers in diplomatic protest over the deployment of the U.S. missile defense system THAAD. The two sides appeared to resolve their differences in October, with little gained. It's been extremely heavy-handed, and the obvious point to make has been China can't be having a successful Korean Peninsula policy when it has poor relations with both North and South. Ewan Graham, director of the International Security Program at Sydney's L.